there's a picture of Granny Gardner, and she's about 90 years old, and she's holding a baby, and the baby is my Grandma Mary. And she ended up adopting the baby at that age. And so my grandma got to grow up with her and, learned right along with her. She also made black ash splinter baskets, the black ash native baskets. And so my grandma learned how to make those and then learned about the medicines. And then they would go on trips. They'd have to like walk and, go hike and go get the medicines, and they'd camp overnight and things like that. And my grandma started when she was about 9 years old. So this is a picture of her, my Grandma Mary, when she was 9 and about the time that she started learning about the medicines. And so now it's in the same area where we live. So now I always think, wow, they had to walk and they had to go camp and go get all these things, and like how much easier it is for us today, because we can drive from one end to the reservation to the other. We can go back in the woods. We can go on logging roads, things like that, and get, if I really wanted to, I could probably get everything almost all in one day if I really, really wanted to. And how much harder it was for them to, have to, walk to go get one and camp and come back. And, it's just amazing to me how much that they did to keep the medicines going. So it's pretty amazing. And then my Grandma Mary's sister, Ella Besaw, she's on here too on the picture, and then this is her as well. She didn't get to get fully raised by Granny Gardner, but she got to spend a lot of time with Granny Gardner, and because she was needed at home to help take care of her other brothers and sisters. So she spent a lot of time. She knew a lot about the medicines. It was said that she knew about 100 medicines. And so that's pretty, that's a pretty amazing amount. And then she was asked a lot to like give presentations at schools, clinics, wherever. A lot of people came to her house. Where I grew up, she was our next door neighbor. And then, so she was our great aunt. And then, and so we would, just go down there like as neighbors and family, and I'd see people coming for medicines, and she'd have medicines hanging out. She had like a back porch, and I remember seeing like the dried medicines hanging up there. And then they always had a lot of visitors at their house. So it was always, you'd get to see everybody when you went there. And then her son, Dave Besaw, he also lived with his mom, with Ella, and so he was our next door neighbor as well, and he's my cousin. So he is the one that I learned most of the medicines from, and how it happened was 17 years ago I had my daughter, and I was like this big career person, things like that, and once I had her, I was like, I need to take care of her. I cannot let her go. I need to take care of her. So I was able to stay home with her, and then Dave would call us and ask us to come along, me and the baby, to all of his presentations. And he had rheumatoid arthritis, so it was hard for him to carry all of his stuff. So we would just carry his stuff or hand it out to everybody, and then he'd give the presentations. So Dave, he knew. They said that Ella knew 100 medicines, and then Dave helped to remember the 58 medicines that are in the book. So just from Ella to Dave, it went from 100 to 58. But luckily we did write it down because, he remembered so much. And there's more that he remembered too. It's just that these are the ones that we were able to like really study enough to get everything you need to actually use them. But there's still more that he remembered, but we still have to like research a lot of that yet, or interview some other people from our tribe too. We were also able to interview a lot of like the older elders, and so they filled in a lot of the bits and pieces for the medicines too. And then a lot of times, like when you're researching, I never really knew exactly how to like research oral tradition, when people only say it word of mouth, you know what I mean? Because when I first started learning about this, you'd Google Stockbridge-Munsee medicines and nothing would come up. So I'd be like, okay, and then but we had all this oral tradition information. And so how I took it was like, if 3 people said it, like almost in the same way, then I consider that like a fact. And it was really cool because like just in my family alone, my Grandma Mary had 16 kids. So I have like 1,000 cousins or something. So every cousin, like this one medicine, our sweet fern, you can use it for like topical issues. And so one of my cousins had eczema. And so one cousin would say, yeah, we use that, he used that, and we would go get it on this road, and that's where it was. So then when I went on that road, I found their patch where they got it. And then another cousin would say, yeah, he used that for his eczema. And then, and this is how we did it. We boiled it, and then he just dabbed it on. And then another cousin would say a little something else about it. So it really completed the picture of, you know, how it was used, and the story of it, and, you know, and like, you know, 20 cousins are saying that he used it. I think that's a fact. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like if you're just used to reading something and things like that, how do you actually cite that, or, you know, like when you're with oral tradition. So that I thought that was really interesting too. You know, it was really fun hearing all the different parts of it. So, and then Dave's story is just amazing. So we've given our tobacco, and then we're gonna just pick a little of the catnip just to show you. And then all you do is you just pick it, and then you would pick enough to bind it together, and it's just tied together with a string. And then you would just hang it up and let it dry. And then this is yarrow. This is another one of our medicines. But, and then it grows over here. And this one we use for arthritis. So it's for like mild forms of arthritis. And it grows like just in fields and prairies. And you'd pick it down at the bottom. Give your tobacco first, you'd pick it down at the bottom, and then you just bind it together and let it dry for about a month or two. And then it'll get really crispy, and that's all you do. Like, we gave our tobacco, we picked it, we tied it together, we hung it up, let it dry for 2 months, and you just let it air dry. And then you can store it in a jar. This is how a lot of our people keep it dried. So then you just put it in a jar, and then I won't even be able to get the cover off. But the top, instead of the metal lid, you put fabric in there. So then your medicines can still breathe and stay dry. And not everybody does it this way, but this is a way that you can do it. When I had 2 ladies come up to me and tell me that this is how it's done. So I'm like, okay, we'll do it that way. For this one, you use all of it. So you can use the stalk, the leaves, and the flowers. And yes. And what you can do is you can just, you know, you can break it up, you could cut it up, however you want, and then just put it in a jar with the fabric on the cover, and then just store it. And then you have it, so like maybe you gathered this in July, and you'll have it in January when you need it, or however long you want. And then when we gather, we try to pick like 1 of every 4. And it doesn't have to be extremely technical, but it's just the point of like, okay, so we have this much catnip. We'd pick, you know, like 1 here, 1 there, and maybe 1 over there. And then it didn't even look like we picked any when we got done. So that's how I do it too. Like if you go through like a field or something, you kind of pick 1 here, pick 1 there, and as you go through the field, you have like a big bouquet of the medicine. But when you look back, it doesn't look like you picked anything. So that's a good way, a good sustainable way of gathering. And this one is good for arthritis, and you would use 1 tablespoon per 1 cup of water. Most of our medicines are teas, and most of the measurements are 1 tablespoon per 1 cup of water. So you boil a cup of water, and you take about a tablespoon, which would be about this much, and you can just put it in the water like that, or you can take like those silver steepers or any kind of steeper, put your medicine inside there, and let it steep for 10 minutes, and that's your tea. Is with the medicines, when we actually give the medicines to, like if we pick them, we gather them, and we make them, and we give them to somebody for the medicine, there is no charge at all. We cannot take money. And that's what I think is really amazing about the medicines, is that there still is free healthcare too. And it's just amazing. People do like to trade though, because of the whole, like, you can't take unless you give, and that's like a big native belief of people. So they'll maybe give gifts or or whatever. And some of the things that people give us are just like amazing, that we never knew we would need. And you're just like, wow, that's so cool. Or like we'll get maple syrup or corn or corn flour, or you know what I mean. So like I always have like maple syrup, so I never have to like buy it. Like people always just give me like all this cool stuff. So so there's a lot of things like that. And then my grandma, she'd get like toilet paper dropped off on her front step, and people would be like, where'd that come from? She goes, oh, it must be the medicines. So like, it's just kind of a really neat way to live. There's a lot of bartering or gift giving and things like that.